Now, I don't have a rabbit, but I have a drut. We are in a whole load of trouble, people. Rabbit holes. Hey Niflight, it's Tuesday, the 12th of May 2020, which means we are talking rabbit holes, as I alluded to in the intro. Rabbit hole is such an interesting thing to say, isn't it? Because basically it describes anything where you get lost in something. And I'm not talking about a maze, I'm talking about doing something that leads to something else, that leads to something else, and before you know it, you've done 20 things, you've waited 6 hours, something overdue, and you probably should have eaten by now. Shame on you. So of course, most people have something that's considered a rabbit hole, something they have done for far too long that they shouldn't have done. And in my case, 2 websites pop up that help me do this: YouTube and Wikipedia. I've gone on and on and on about the amount of stuff that I've read on Wikipedia, especially Warhammer 40k or Final Fantasy Wikipedia articles, because I just read one thing, there's a link to it, another thing, so I read the other thing to this thing, which links to that thing, which links to that thing, to that thing, to that thing, to that thing. And before you know it, I've read the entire history of the Faraga spell through 15 plus games. That doesn't include the non-elemental spells Flare and Flare Star and the various other forms, which basically involve flames in their animation, but they're still classed as non-elemental spells, which means you can actually use them to bypass elemental resistances and immunities. We could of course look at the psychological implications of a rabbit hole, or the metaphor of a rabbit hole, and why we get lost in something for several hours. Things I've mentioned before that I've been lost in, such as Wikipedia articles or YouTube videos, are things that I've seen or read before, things I've consumed at least twice, 3 times, 4 times maybe, and yet I still find myself rereading them. Is it considered escapism? Is it considered boredom? Is it considered just me trying to get away from what's going on in my head at the current moment? Maybe it's just me trying to live through my nostalgic self by rereading the things I've already read and sort of refamiliarizing myself with something I've known in the past. Or maybe, here is the thing, maybe there's just not a lot of thought behind it. Maybe it's something that just happens without any sort of deep psychological implication, and it's just something you get distracted with. And I mean, of course, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but generally speaking, I think sometimes we put too much thought into these things. I'm not sure. I love getting lost down rabbit holes because it's just fun to me, the consuming of stuff that I may have read before, I may have not, discovering new things that tie into stuff I already knew to create a bigger, more expansive picture. Or maybe I just don't like thinking about work. What kind of rabbit holes have you been lost in recently, or in any point in your life ever? Why not talk about that down in the comments below? Thank you very much for watching. Mr. Porsche Jerry will see you tomorrow, and then if I have a nice day.